Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me. To all my men and my woman out there. Ha. Ooh, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Over and over and over again. Remember your heart, your place, keep it safe.
Stay safe. Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me. To all my men and my woman out there. Ha. Ooh, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Over and over and over again. Remember your heart, your place, keep it safe.
Stay safe. Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me. To all my men and my woman out there. Ha. Ooh, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Over and over and over again. Remember your heart, your place, keep it safe.
Stay safe. Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me. To all my men and my woman out there. Ha. Ooh, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Over and over and over again. Remember your heart, your place, keep it safe.
Stay safe. Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me. To all my men and my woman out there. Ha. Ooh, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Over and over and over again. Remember your heart, your place, keep it safe.
Stay safe.
Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me.
To all my men and my women out there.
Ha.
Ooh, AIDS, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Want your health to go in the wrong direction. Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me.
To all my men and my women out there.
Ha.
Ooh, AIDS, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health to go in the wrong direction. Gotta stay safe, gotta use protection.
Take care.
Want your health to go in the wrong direction. Over and over and over again. Remember, your safety is for you, it's for them. Over and over and over again. Remember your heart, your place, keep it safe.
Stay safe.
Ooh, baby, love safely, take care for you and me.
To all my men and my women out there.
Ha.
Ooh, AIDS, HIV is a place where you don't wanna be. Take care of yourself and everybody else.
You don't want your health.
Arise, Queen. It's our time to reign, reinvent, restore, and refresh. Join Sisters for Sisters, Inc. as we begin our 22nd year empowering and transforming the lives of women and girls in mind, body, and spirit. Despite the pandemic, we have continued to serve, support, and bring light in a season of uncertainty, challenges, and darkness. Join us as a participant or a partner. Sisters has exciting programs and impactful outreach in the areas of HIV/AIDS, sexual domestic violence, homelessness, girls mentoring, personal development, and many areas where trauma has impacted the lives of vulnerable women and girls. Or if you have a heart to serve and support others, join our mission and become an ambassador, partner, or volunteer. To learn more, visit sistersforsisters.org. Together, we can make a difference, one sister at a time.
I am the lead peer educator and program assistant for the AFIA Center. Right now, I am training HIV positive people to become peer educators and to disclose their status. I found out I was HIV positive while in a treatment facility for substance abuse. I had made some bad choices in my life that landed me there, and I decided to go ahead and take the HIV test. And back then it was a blood draw and you had to wait 2 weeks. So I waited 2 weeks and came back. They came back and they called me back there, and she said, "It doesn't look good." And I said, "What doesn't look good?" And she said, "It doesn't look good," and she walked out. And I knew right there and then I was HIV positive.
TPA. The Texas Plus America pageant had they call it a boot camp or a training institute where they teach you how to walk and speak and sit and the whole nine. And I was up bright and early waiting on Michelle to make her entrance.
I thought I was Beyonce when I walked in from her reaction.
I had my book in hand, I was ready for her autograph, and she was just like, so gracious, trying to act like she wasn't a celebrity or anything. I tease her about that all the time.
You'll be okay. You're not going to die. I thought I was going to die when I first found out, but you're not going to die. HIV is easily, you can live with it, if you take your medications, if you educate yourself on it, and that there's life outside of HIV. HIV is just a diagnosis. That doesn't mean you have to stop living.
There's a lot of negativity that comes along with it because of the stigma attached to it. But for the most part, you have to be yourself, and you have to know that HIV is what you have and not who you are.
Right.
It shouldn't determine what you do or where you go or how you see yourself. You have to have a high self-esteem and not allow it to tear you down.
If I can do my part to save someone's life, then this is my duty to do this. Let's stop HIV together. Get the facts, get tested, get involved.
Hello and greetings. On behalf of Sisters for Sisters Incorporated and our SOS project, Saving Our Sisters from HIV/AIDS, we welcome you to National HIV Testing Day. We thank you all so much for supporting our work. For over about 14 years, we have been basically helping the women throughout our community, Prince George's County, Maryland, and globally, become educated and aware and to help prevent the HIV virus in our community. We know as we're preparing for hot girl summer and having a great time, we want to involve, engage, and most of all, educate our sisters and our brothers on the impact of not knowing your status. 1 out of 7 people who are HIV positive don't know their status. That's right, they don't know their status. So today we are recognizing with our SOS shirts and brands the fact that we want to see our community educated, because together we can end HIV, AIDS, the stigma, as well as educating our community. If you're on board today, join us. We are right now at the drugstore Walgreens on 202 in Landover, Maryland, passing out, which was gas cards for your gas. So if you go and get tested while supplies last, we will give you a gas card on today. So thank you so much. We appreciate your support. Share this with a friend. We are on Facebook Live and YouTube. So get educated and know your status.
On the other hand, it also made me think about a lot of patients who actually still believe a lot of myths and misconceptions about HIV. Right now, one myth is that HIV is just a gay man's disease. Wrong. Another myth that some people still believe is that HIV can be caught from just casual contact. Wrong. And one of the scariest myths that some people still believe is that people with HIV or AIDS have a certain look. They look like they have AIDS. That one is so wrong. Over 36.9 million people worldwide are living with HIV. It is still a major epidemic. Over the next several minutes, we're going to have a little chat about HIV and AIDS. I'm going to discuss the risk factors, the symptoms, how HIV is spread, and how HIV can be prevented. Keep watching. AIDS was first identified in the United States back in 1981, and at that time, it was believed to be a gay man's disease. And sadly, at that time, very little or no efforts were put forth toward prevention or toward research. Well, very soon it became evident that HIV crosses all color lines, cultures, races, religions. It crosses all socioeconomic lines. From Charlie Sheen to Freddie Mercury to Eazy-E to Magic Johnson. There's no particular look of HIV. You can't put HIV patients in a box. Though there is no definitive cure for HIV yet, there are many highly effective treatments which can allow that virus to be suppressed to an undetectable level, meaning that people who are infected with HIV can still have strong immune systems and live normal lifespans. What is HIV? So HIV, or human immunodeficiency virus, is a virus that attacks the immune system. So your immune system is your body's defense, your body's army against infection, your antibodies, your white blood cells, T cells, B cells. What HIV does is that it attacks some of these cells so that it suppresses your immune system and you become more prone to infection. When HIV is very severe, when that virus is allowed to proliferate, it's not treated properly, you can progress to AIDS, which is when your CD4 count is less than 200, or if you have one of the AIDS-defining illnesses like lymphoma or candidiasis or yeast in your esophagus. Basically, AIDS occurs when the HIV weakens the immune system to really the lowest state. How is HIV spread? Well, it's not spread through casual contact, not spread through handshakes, through hugging someone. HIV is spread through sexual contact or by exposure to body fluids or blood that have been infected with HIV. You can get HIV from sexual contact, vaginal sex, anal sex, and yes, oral sex. You can also get HIV if you share needles. For example, if you use IV drugs and you share a needle with someone who is infected with HIV, you can get HIV. Another way is if you share other drug paraphernalia. For example, if you are a person who uses cocaine, if you inhale cocaine, say you use a straw that a person who is infected with HIV has used, if the tip of that straw has come in contact with some broken blood vessels in the infected person's nostrils, and now you use that same straw and it comes into contact with your bloodstream through your nostrils, then yes, you can get HIV that way. Another way to get HIV is through needle sticks. If you're a healthcare provider and you accidentally stick yourself with a needle that has been used by a person who is HIV positive, you can get HIV that way. And very rarely, patients who are pregnant and HIV positive can pass that HIV to their unborn child or pass it on during childbirth or through breastfeeding if they're not properly treated. So who is at high risk for HIV? Anyone who is having unprotected sex, particularly with multiple partners. Men having sex with men are at high risk. People who are professional sex workers. Also people who share drug needles or share drug paraphernalia. Other people at high risk, if you received multiple blood transfusions before 1984, that's a risk factor. New HIV diagnoses have the highest rate among African Americans. Even though blacks only make up 12% of the population, African Americans account for 44% of the new diagnoses with HIV. What are the symptoms of HIV? When someone is infected with the HIV virus, symptoms usually develop between 2 and 4 weeks after exposure. These symptoms are difficult to recognize because they tend to be flu-like or like a common cold. Symptoms include fever, sore throat, rash. You can have diarrhea, nausea. You can also get inflamed or swollen lymph nodes, like around the neck or even down in the groin. These symptoms tend to go away, And if you're not tested or suspicious, you could miss that you have that diagnosis and then go back to feeling completely normal. Some of the later symptoms of HIV can occur months or even years after initial exposure. And some of these later symptoms or signs can be candidiasis or yeast thrush that is down in the esophagus, the digestive system. Also, if you get candidiasis in the lungs or in the trachea, in the bronchioles, that can be associated with HIV. Certain cancers are associated with HIV, such as Kaposi sarcoma, lymphoma. All of these are late signs of HIV infection. Who should be tested for HIV? Well, according to the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, everyone between the ages of 13 and 64 should be tested for HIV at least once. And there are many types of testing you can get. If you go to health fairs or if you go to your health clinic or just consult your physician, you can find out how you can be tested. There are rapid HIV tests that are now available. And the rapid test can be done using just a finger stick or a pinprick or using oral secretions. You get that test and the results come back within 5 to 40 minutes. Now, if you are found to be HIV positive on a rapid test, you do need a repeat or confirmation test of another type. There are other more standard tests that actually involve a blood draw from the vein. And these tests can test for the HIV virus or HIV RNA. They can also test for the HIV antigen or the antibody to HIV. These test results usually will come back within a few days. There are even home HIV tests that are available. And these tests can also either use a finger stick or a pinprick, or they can use oral secretions as well. There are anonymous tests as well. There are all kinds of options, so there's no reason that you should be infected with HIV and not know it. And the earlier that you find out, the better, because the earlier the diagnosis of HIV, the more effective the treatment, the more likely you are to have a long life with a strong immune system. Don't sit in the dark, don't be in denial. Go out and get tested. How do you prevent getting HIV? Well, the best way to prevent is not to engage in high-risk behavior. If you're having sex, make sure you are using a latex or polyurethane condom. Make sure that you aren't sharing drug needles or sharing drug paraphernalia. If you are a healthcare provider, use all safety precautions when dealing with body fluids or when dealing with blood. Another wonderful way to prevent HIV is by taking preventive medications, something called PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis. The pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, is actually an anti-HIV medication that is taken by people who have not been infected with HIV. And it is evidence-based that PrEP can decrease HIV transmission by more than 90%. If indeed you are HIV positive, there are many, many effective treatments. Antiretroviral medications. These medications have gotten better and better over the decades, where they have less side effects and they're more effective in fighting HIV. If you take these medications, you can have a normal lifespan. You can suppress the HIV virus to the point where it's undetectable. You can have a strong immune system. You can have a healthy life. So if you think that you have been exposed to HIV, again, don't be in denial. Get tested and get treated. This ends my overview of HIV and AIDS. Please like my video. Please subscribe to my page. If you are someone who is living with HIV, please comment down below. Be an encouragement to someone else. Please help teach us something. Please comment. Remember, practice safe behavior. No matter how high of a pressure situation you're in, always try to be wise and make sure you use a condom. You make wise choices. And if indeed you have been exposed to HIV, face it head on. Look for support groups. consult your physician. Be honest with your physician. HIV is everywhere. There's no face to it. You can't just stereotype people. I guarantee you sit by people with HIV on the bus, you ride in the airplane with them, you hug them, you see them at church. HIV is here, but we are fighting to eradicate it. Please take care of yourself. Do your best to live your healthiest, happiest life. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Frida.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Frida. We appreciate you coming on board and giving us the 411 so that we will have less 911s. Information is power. So we want to thank you all again for tuning in today for National HIV Testing Day with SOS, Saving Our Sisters from HIV/AIDS, a part of the Sisters for Sisters, Inc. signature of services. So we, as I mentioned to you all before, we are at Walgreens right now, providing an incentive for those that are actually getting tested today. We are providing you with gift cards to say thank you for knowing your status. Sister Maggie, are you with us down at the site? Sister Maggie or Sister Tia? We're trying to do a live broadcast down at the site, but we're not sure we're going to make it in. Nonetheless, there are so many things that we all need to know in our community. And it's our position that as we continue to educate, then we will be able to prevent some.
Carolyn, we are here. We're here.
Okay,
It's
great.
Maggie, Karen,
Hello.
and Tia. Tia.
Can
Tia,
I
come
see
this
you
way.
all? Yeah. So how's everything going? You all come together. Can you all put your camera a little? Yeah, that's much
Okay.
better.
Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Hi. We're out here in the
SOS
rain.
sisters. How are you doing?
We're out here in the rain sharing information. And, of course, we are not assisting with the testing, but we are here promoting the testing. There is a gift card available for those who do test. So come on out, get a test, get a burger or a hot dog. And most of all, get some information, because information is knowledge and knowing your status is powerful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I think that's very important.
For the most, I think we've had about 6 people get tested. So
Thank you all for coming out and supporting, ladies. I am so thankful and grateful to you all. But if you wanted to give anybody any advice that might be afraid of having their test, do you all have any advice? Any of you?
What did you say? We couldn't hear you. It's starting to storm. We couldn't hear you.
Oh, well, do you all have any advice for anyone who might be a little reluctant, a little nervous about getting tested today? What kind of words of encouragement could you give someone who's tuning in? And I'm telling everybody before they go out and have their hot girl summer, that they need to know their status. Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah,
that they need to
the
know
only
their
thing that we
status?
can really say is that it's important to know your status. It's nothing to be afraid of. HIV is no longer a death sentence, but on the same token, you don't want to go around carrying something and spreading it to someone else. So think about yourself and think about the others who you may encounter sexually over the summer. We're all out here looking good and slim and all that. So, that's another part of your self-care. Your status, knowing your status is also self-care.
I like that. I like that. So I know you all have some red little gift bags. Do you all have them where you can show the audience about the gift bags that we're sharing as well? Does anybody? Okay. Wonderful. Those are the SOS bags with information on PrEP and some little mitts and, of course, some condoms to stay safe. Stay safe in these streets. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you. I want you all to be safe. Stay safe out there in this rain, and I'll be back in touch. Thank you all.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys. Bye. So, as you all know, we are moving and grooving. Brother Anthony,
So it's an illness like any other illness, but the stigma is very bad. I told an ex-partner, he turned around and said on the phone, if I go and have an HIV test done and it comes positive, I will shoot you, he said. He said, I'll get a gun and I'll kill you. After sitting down with the midwife, she told me what was going to happen, what the test she was going to do going to be. Then she said, would you like to do an HIV test? And I said, no. She said, why have you said no? I said, I'm well, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me. 2 weeks after, I got a letter in the post saying, can I come back for some more tests? So I sat down, and then she said to me, your HIV test that you did has come back positive. I immediately got very distressed. I started shaking, I started crying. I was in shock. What I know about HIV is that people with HIV will die of AIDS. And she said, things have changed now. There's now medication. People are successfully living with medication now. And in terms of your child, once you're taking your medication, once the viral load is suppressed, the medication, the HIV will not infect, you will not infect your child during pregnancy. And then I said to them, I said, what about me? What's going to happen to me? I thought they were just talking about the baby because then they will have the baby and then I will die or something. And she said, no, you'll be fine. You just continue taking your medication. The doctors will prescribe medication. Continue taking your medication and your viral load will be suppressed. That's the result they expect to see. And the CD4 count, which is the soldiers in my body that fights infections, will go up. So I left there with hope. I remember saying to them, how soon can I start? I want to start immediately. And she booked me an appointment to come to see the consultant the next day. They found that my viral load was in its thousands, really high. And my CD4 count was only 50. And a normal person's CD4 count is about 300, so 50 was dangerously low. And I was told that if I had carried on with that pregnancy without taking an HIV test, I would have fallen very ill with an AIDS-defined illness. And within 3 months, my viral load had gone from thousands down to under 50, which is undetectable. And my CD4 count had gone up to about 400, which is healthy. When they said I'm HIV positive, I thought I've got just a few months left to live. I didn't think there was a future. I thought that was it. I'm just going to die young. And then it got to the point where I thought I need to tell my son, because I believe in telling children things when they're young, so that it becomes a normality for them, so that when they get to teenage period, when they're dealing with hormones and all sorts of problems, relationship problems, it's not a big shock. After a few months, I was getting ready for school, and then he saw me take the tablets. So I said, do you remember that program we watched on telly? And those children that were learning about that bug that people get, and there's no cure for it. He said, yes. I said, Mom's got that bug. He actually laughed. He said, he thought it was funny that Mom's got connection with someone on telly. If you get cancer, people rally around you. But with HIV, people they hear your story, you tell them, and they cut you off. That's been my experience. I've had dentists take me off their list when they find out that I'm HIV positive. That happens. Or wear 2 gloves. That happened recently. My family as well, they seem to just be waiting for me to, they're waiting to hear the news that I've maybe died or something. They don't seem to understand that I'm okay taking my medication and I'll live long. So in terms of my family, I wish they were a little bit more understanding and a bit more caring, or show a bit more concern for what's going on. Once you're taking medication, if your viral load is undetectable, that's when the virus cannot be picked up by the test, and your CD4 count is above 300, especially when it's undetectable. It means that you cannot transmit the HIV. So undetectable equals untransmittable. So I'm a member of what they call the UK CAB, and we meet every 3 months, and we have people from the pharmaceutical companies coming to talk to us about new developing treatments for HIV. And the most exciting one is there's going to be an injection, and possibly every month, and they're hoping it could be every 6 months. It might be an implant, it might be an injection, or maybe a jab. So it's looking good.
So you all can actually see you can live with a positive HIV diagnosis. It is not the end of the world. So I want to introduce and bring on the co-host and the team. Sister Karen is down at the site, but we have Sister Mary as well as Sister Diane. Good morning, ladies. So glad to have you on this National HIV Testing Day. How are you all today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. How about you, Diane? Okay. Well, Mary, let me ask you a question. When you first heard about the HIV virus, were you here? Were you in New York? What was that like for you? What was the experience like?
I was in New York at the time. I was dating a guy whose brother passed away from having it. And so I was really confused because I thought he wasn't gay. And I'm like, well, how did he get it? He had been on a trip, got involved with somebody and he passed away. You know, he didn't have any treatments or anything like that. Maybe he had gotten treatments, he might have been okay.
Wow.
That's the closest, person I've had, I've known.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that you don't have to be gay, you don't have to be a drug user to actually contract the HIV virus. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, because he wasn't gay. I know he drank a lot of alcohol. So I'm not sure where he got it from.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So that's what happens a lot of times as we prepare for this summer and thereafter. A lot of times we don't know that you can be the most athletic, you can be the finest, the prettiest, and you can still contract this virus. So that's why we have to be very safe, wouldn't you say? Sister Diane, are you with us? Okay.
On mute.
She's on mute. Okay. Diane,
You're on mute, Diane.
and we need you to unmute yourself, my
Okay.
dear. We need you to
Yes. Okay.
unmute.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, my experience, and it was very sad that lady that I work with was married and she didn't know that her husband had HIV, and as a subsequently she died. And it was just so sad that in that situation where, there was a matter of trust, there was a matter of deceit, and as a result, it was her death. And it was just so sad. A vibrant young lady, I would say she was in her 40s at the time. So, my thoughts on that is, just because you're married, you still need to find out, like Magic Johnson.
Mhm. Diane, that's a good point, and that's sad, but it's so truthful. I've got to tell you all, my introduction was in the 80s when my mentor, who was also my cousin, everyone said he had cancer. Nobody said it was AIDS. It was in the 80s, early 80s, and it was a stigma attached to it. So nobody really wanted to talk about it. I remember going to see him in the hospital having to wear a mask. And I was like, why? They said, because you could make him sick because his resistance and all that is very low. And I just couldn't understand it. But later, when he transitioned, it was very sad. I didn't quite understand it all. And then I lost a dear friend from college. She was beautiful, She was in the School of Engineering at Howard University. Just beautiful and sweet. Had a fine boyfriend, was in a fraternity, and she got it from him. And she died. He died, and then she died. It was very, it was startling because nobody was really talking about it. So that's why it's important that we educate. That's why it's important that we stay aware of what those risk factors are and to get tested. So again, if you're in the Prince George's County area, we're going to ask you to go up to Walgreens. The team is there. I thank Sister Sharon Coker from SLK, who created this wonderful platform today. And we're happy to provide incentives as well as our red SOS bags to get our community educated. I keep saying that because it's so critical, and to help prevent the spread of HIV in our county. As many of you all may or may not know, Prince George's County, Maryland, has the highest number of new HIV/AIDS cases in the state of Maryland. So we want to make a change to that. Yes, we want to reduce those numbers for sure. So we want to again thank you all for tuning in. We've got more information to share, more resources, and I want to encourage you to share this with all the people in your organizations and your faith-based groups so that we can eliminate, and most of all, we can say no to HIV in our community. By the way, the theme for this day is HIV testing is self-care. Self-care. We're on the self-care tip, but HIV testing is a form of self-care. Diane or Mary, did you have any other comments or anything you'd like to share?
Well, I have a question. How often should you be tested? Even though you may be negative, how often should you be tested?
It depends on your lifestyle. If you are a person who is actively engaged in unprotected sex, you should be tested, I would say, every 6 months or even more, depending on the frequency of your activity. But I certainly would recommend, one of the things we are giving away in our SOS bags today are condoms. And I certainly recommend it. And Diane, that's a really good question. I want to also share that the HIV virus knows no limitations on age, because one of the fastest growing groups of new cases are our elders, our seasoned seniors. Because of that little blue pill, they are all over the place. And sadly, a lot of women are being infected by the virus. Even though you're in a senior living facility, Mr. Jackson, and that's not his name, I'm just using that as an example, may have sexual relations with the sister on the 2nd floor, the 4th floor, the 7th floor, and once you transmit and you're all over the place, that gives a high incidence of new HIV cases. So to answer your question again, Diana, it depends on the frequency of your activity. But if you're not active, you still want to get a test. And for those that are, ask your doctor, because a lot of times they don't recommend it, or not that they don't recommend it, but they don't mention it. So you mention it as a part of your self-care. Ask them,
right?
That's my
suggestion. So what are the symptoms then of
well, we're gonna share more about that right now, Diane. We have some wonderful guests that are coming in virtually and on videos to share all the information, because there are so many pieces to this. It's not a one size fit all kind of thing. I don't want to mislead anybody. And because you don't have those symptoms doesn't mean you're not positive. So again, get tested, know your status, and so you can be safe. Anthony?
This trailer is on a journey in South Carolina, offering free HIV screenings as part of an effort to stem the spread of a deadly killer. About 1/4 of infected Americans don't know they have the disease, And this team is worried about one particular demographic.
You know, back in the day, they used to say that this was a white gay disease. Guess who the face of HIV is now? Me and you.
HIV/AIDS is the #1 cause of death among African American women between the ages of 25 and 34. It's killing them at more than 20 times the rate of white women. But still, many are too scared to speak up about protection.
We got to be responsible for our actions and make our brothers know it's not an option. Baby, use a condom.
Why don't they tell the guy what we're gonna use? Condoms. Why? Why they don't do it because they fear rejection. Men has the power. I've seen a lot of that down here. Men, yeah, they had the power.
Advocates are trying to give women the knowledge and confidence they need to prevent the spread of the disease.
Your results are right here. You're negative.
They say women need to be able to assert themselves with their sexual partners. And some predict that if the majority of black women don't take steps to guard against getting infected, the results will be devastating.
There will be a time capsule in the future that will be open, and it will say that in the 21st century, there was an epidemic, and that epidemic was called HIV/AIDS. And there were people, and they were called African Americans. The only way you will be able to see what we look like will be in some museum.
In the 40 years since the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's first Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report article on what is now known about HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, the scientific community has reached remarkable milestones. Notable scientific advances include the development of the highly effective antiretroviral therapies, advances in HIV prevention, such as the pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, and the treatment as prevention strategy, and increasing the acceptance of the undetectable equals untransmittable concept, or U equals U. However, even with these advances, women, particularly women of color and transgender women, have not yet reaped the full benefits of prevention. Women with HIV have higher rates of non-AIDS comorbidities than men with HIV. And much is still unknown about sex differences when it comes to a cure for HIV. Women also remain underrepresented in research towards an HIV cure. Globally, women acquire HIV at a higher rate than men, underscoring the need for HIV research specific to women. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has a bold plan to effectively end the HIV epidemic by 2030. Achieving that goal will require continued cross-sector collaboration and commitment. As we take time to reflect on the accomplishments and advances of the past 40 years, while looking forward to the future, we are proud to uplift some voices of the women leading the way in HIV research.
I started working as an advocate in 2006. And I think what motivated me to become an advocate at the beginning was the fact that I was diagnosed as HIV positive in April of 1997. And where I couldn't find any services, my doctors didn't know anything about HIV. So I was committed to learning as much as I could about HIV so nobody had to go through the different things I went through, but also to help them navigate the system.
When I was a teenager, everything that I was reading about HIV was telling me that I wasn't at risk as a Black woman and that no one in my family was at risk. I was being told that if you were Haitian, if you were hemophiliac, if you were a heroin user, or you identified as homosexual, those were the things that put you at risk. And there were many women in my neighborhood who were living with HIV. One of my mom's very good friends was diagnosed in 88, I believe. And so what I was hearing in terms of who was at risk, who was being impacted by HIV was not at all my reality of who was being impacted by HIV.
I started working in HIV in 1992, but I was diagnosed with HIV in 1988. So I have had a, relatively speaking, front row seat to this epidemic for 33 of the last 40 years. So I think that, you know, although my personal journey started in the late 80s, I started really kind of focusing as an advocate in the early 90s.
I think initially my first experience in taking care of people living with HIV was when I was a very young, recently graduated infectious disease specialist, and I worked at the New York VA Medical Center. And at that time, it was largely, in the very beginning, a disease that was mostly impacting, of course, at that time, gay men in New York City and gay men in this country. So that was my first encounter with HIV, but it became evident very quickly thereafter as the epidemic continued in the city here in New York. That women in particular was also severely affected as well. And often, of course, were largely hidden because at that point in time, people thought of this epidemic as mainly a gay disease and not really something that women should be worried about. And I think this also coincided with my then taking on the position of the chief of infectious diseases at Harlem Hospital in New York City, where clearly we had a different epidemic. It was a much more diverse epidemic.
I mean, I think some of the huge advances in HIV science surely came with the advent of highly active antiretroviral therapy, or HAART, which really kind of changed the game for all of us. And it allowed people who were dying from HIV to live longer and healthier lives. And so it really was a turning point when it comes to HIV science and women. You know, I think that oral pre-exposure prophylaxis and PrEP overall has been a huge advancement for women, though it is not realized. You know, this is been a game changer, and PrEP gives us another modality to respond to HIV. But PrEP really gives women the power to protect themselves when they're not able to negotiate condom usage, which we know is a huge part of HIV acquisition, particularly among women. So whether it is experiencing intimate partner violence, not being able to negotiate condom usage, that PrEP is a huge advancement when it comes to the tools that we have to respond to HIV among women.
Absolutely. We have so many different advances since the day. I was heartbroken when the man that I thought was going to be my husband, that was my dream husband, Magic Irvin Johnson, was diagnosed and came publicly with his beautiful wife Cookie and announced, I'm positive, but he's living, he's thriving, and so can you. Get tested and know your status. On behalf of Sisters for Sisters Incorporated, our SOS program, Saving Our Sisters from HIV, as well as the director, Maggie Lewis, we want to thank you all for joining in and tuning in. Don't forget, go get tested at the Walgreens in Landover, and you can, in fact, win a gift card for gas. Yes, so we thank you all. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Mary, for being co-host. Thank you, my brother Anthony, for your engineering expertise and working with me. It takes hours to do the work that we do, but I thank God that if we can make a difference, that is what matters most. Sisters for Sisters, Inc. and Midday Motivation, thanks you so much. This is week number 121. Yay! 121. And beginning on July 1st to September, we will be on a hiatus. We will be on a break and take some relaxation. So we want to thank you all for your support and pray that you will continue to stay safe this summer. So thank you again.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Ooh, baby, love safely. Take care for you and